Thank you for sharing this space with me today. I can feel the energy in this room, the heartbeat of people who want more out of life, and the courage it takes to make that happen. Today we're talking about something that lies at the heart of transformation, a concept so simple, yet sometimes the hardest thing to do, letting go. Why is it that we often hold on so tightly to things that no longer serve us? Whether it's people, places, memories, or fears, we cling to them hoping they'll bring us a sense of security. But what they often do is weigh us down. It's like walking through life with stones in your pockets, hoping that the heaviness will somehow lift you higher. But it doesn't work that way. Letting go is about releasing that weight, those stones, so you can rise. When we choose to let go, we create space, a void, if you will. That allows growth to take root. That space is where possibility lies. But here's the truth, letting go is scary, it's uncomfortable. Our minds convince us that if we release our hold, we'll lose our identity, our security. But the opposite is true. It is only when we release the old that we can fully embrace the new. Growth, real growth, requires courage. It requires you to step out in faith and believe that there is something better waiting on the other side. When we talk about growth and moving forward in our lives, the first step is often the hardest. It's the decision to let go. Now, that may sound simple on the surface, but letting go isn't a one-time act. It's a continuous, intentional choice, and it requires you to confront parts of yourself that you may have clung to for far too long. So often we get attached to things, people, or beliefs, and even though they may no longer serve us, we find it difficult to loosen our grip. We hold on, hoping that somehow, through our persistence, they'll provide us with something we need. But instead of bringing us strength, what they often end up bringing is stagnation. Because here's the thing, when you hold on to something that's not meant to be part of your future, you're keeping yourself tethered to a place in the past. You're using your energy, your time, and your heart to stay attached to what's behind you instead of embracing the path that lies ahead. Imagine if we could look at letting go not as losing something, but as gaining something invaluable. It's about making space for new possibilities. Think about a garden. You can't just keep planting new seeds without clearing out the old plants, pulling up the weeds, and turning the soil. If you try to plant something new on top of what's already there, nothing will flourish. It's only when you clear that space that your garden can truly grow. The same is true for our lives. The things that weigh us down, those memories or fears, or maybe even people we cling to, they're like those old weeds. They take up space, and the more we cling to them, the less room we have for anything new to blossom. Letting go is not an act of abandonment, it's an act of honoring your journey. You're not giving up on the past, you're giving yourself permission to step into your future. We all have memories, experiences, even relationships that shaped us. They helped us become who we are, and they gave us the lessons we needed at the time. But as we grow, we need different lessons, and that often means releasing the past. This isn't about erasing those experiences or denying that they mattered. It's about acknowledging them, appreciating the role they played, and then gently setting them down, knowing they don't need to define us any longer. Just because something was once important doesn't mean it has to be permanent. We get to choose what we carry forward, and sometimes the most empowering choice we can make is to leave certain things behind. In life, every time we let go of something, we're also letting in something new. Letting go creates a vacuum, and the universe has a way of filling that space with what we need most. But it won't happen if we're still clutching what's not meant to stay. Our hands, our hearts, they only have so much capacity. And if we're filling that capacity with things that don't nourish us, things that don't lift us higher, then we're shutting ourselves off from the chance to receive what truly will. So much of life is about that exchange, that give and take. We release and we receive. We make space and we are filled. But it all starts with the courage to release, to let go, and to believe that whatever fills that space will be better than what we've left behind. It's a powerful shift when you begin to see letting go not as a loss, but as an invitation. It's an invitation to trust the journey, to believe that there's a reason for everything, even if you can't see it in the moment. There's a deep wisdom in knowing that sometimes we're only holding on because we're afraid of what's next. But fear is a poor guide for life. Fear keeps us small. Fear convinces us to settle for less, to cling to what we know, even if it doesn't serve us. When you release that fear, when you open yourself up to the unknown, that's when true transformation begins. It's like peeling away layers, stripping down to who you are at your core. And in that core, there is strength, there is resilience, there is beauty. As you make this shift, you'll notice that letting go is not a single action. It's a mindset, a way of being. It's the ability to say, I release what no longer serves me and mean it. It's the willingness to put yourself first, to choose growth over comfort, to say yes to your own future, even if it means saying no to some things you once held dear. And that's hard, but with each release, you'll find that you become lighter. You'll feel a burden lifting, and in its place, there's a sense of peace, there's clarity, there's freedom. This journey of letting go is not a journey of abandonment. It's a journey of reclamation. You're reclaiming your energy, your time, your life. You're saying, I am worth more than this heaviness, more than this story that doesn't reflect who I am becoming. And when you do that, when you take that step, something beautiful happens. You find that there's a world of possibilities waiting for you, opportunities you couldn't see before, people who bring out the best in you, dreams that suddenly seem within reach. It's all there, just beyond the fear, just beyond the need to hold on. So as you take this path, remember letting go is a gift you give to yourself. It's a declaration that you are ready for what comes next, that you trust the journey, that you believe in the beauty of the unknown. And with each thing you release, with each piece of the past you set down, you're making room for new growth. You're creating a life that's lighter, freer, and more aligned with who you're truly meant to be. When we talk about reaching our potential, it's important to understand that one of the greatest obstacles standing in our way is our own attachment to what no longer serves us. Imagine you're carrying a heavy load, one filled with old beliefs, worn out dreams, fears, even relationships that are no longer fulfilling. And yet, instead of setting that load down, we carry it with us everywhere we go. We say we want to grow, to reach new heights, to discover new parts of ourselves. But with each step, that load only grows heavier, weighing us down and limiting our progress. Holding on to what doesn't serve you is like trying to run a marathon with weights strapped to your feet. And you might move forward, but it's slower, it's harder, and it drains you in ways you don't even realize. It's human nature to hold on. We hold on because we think we believe that those things, those people, those experiences somehow define who we are. And sometimes we tell ourselves that without them, we might lose our sense of self. But the truth is, every single one of us is constantly evolving, and not everything or everyone is meant to come with us. Some things are only here for a season. They teach us something. They help us grow in a certain way. And then it's time to let them go. But when we resist this, when we cling to the familiar out of fear or habit, we end up closing ourselves off to the new experiences, new people, and new opportunities that could bring us closer to the life we truly desire. And consider a tree. Every year it grows new leaves, and every year it sheds those leaves when their purpose has been fulfilled. The tree doesn't cling to them out of fear that it won't grow new ones next season. It lets go, trusting in the cycle of renewal, trusting that new leaves will come when the time is right. But imagine if that tree refused to let go. Imagine if it held on to every single leaf it had ever grown, afraid to release them, afraid of the emptiness that might follow. It wouldn't be able to grow. It wouldn't be able to thrive. The same is true for us. We need to trust in our own cycles of growth and renewal, even if it means facing the season of letting go. When we hold on to things that no longer serve us, it's often because we're holding on to a past version of ourselves. We're holding on to what we thought our lives should look like, what we believed would make us happy or successful. But sometimes the path we once thought was right turns out to be a detour. And if we're not careful, we end up spending years walking down that path simply because we've invested so much time and energy in it. But life doesn't work that way. We are constantly being given chances to change, to grow, to recalibrate. If we keep moving forward with that same outdated map, we'll never reach our true destination. So often, people fear change because it requires them to confront the unknown. Letting go is uncomfortable. It forces us to face the possibility that things might not turn out the way we planned. But holding on to what doesn't serve us is like clinging to a sinking ship. Yes, it's familiar, yes, it's known, but if it's sinking, it's only going to take us down with it. The irony is, the moment we let go, the moment we step away from what no longer supports us, we open up space for something better, something more aligned with who we truly are becoming. When we decide to release the things that weigh us down, we're not denying our past, we're honoring it by moving forward. We're acknowledging that everything we've experienced has played a part in shaping us, but we're not letting it limit our future. Just because you've invested time and energy into something doesn't mean you're obligated to keep investing if it's no longer aligned with your growth. The strongest, most resilient people are those who know when to let go, who know that their worth is not determined by how much they can hold on to, but by how willing they are to make space for the new. Letting go of what no longer serves you requires you to take an honest look at your life. It's about being real with yourself, asking, does this truly add to my life? Does this person, this belief, this habit help me become the best version of myself? Sometimes we avoid these questions because we don't want to face the answers. We worry that if we release these things, we'll end up with empty hands, with an emptiness inside us. But here's the truth, that emptiness is where growth begins. It's in that space, in that openness, that new opportunities can take root. Think of it as clearing out a closet. You can't keep filling it with new clothes if it's already packed with old ones that don't fit. At some point, you have to take a look at each item and ask, does this still serve me? It's the same with our lives. Our minds, our hearts, they're like that closet. We have to make room for the new, and that means letting go of the old. And yes, sometimes that process is painful. Sometimes it's hard to let go of something that once brought us comfort, joy, or security. But we have to ask ourselves if that comfort is worth staying small, if that security is worth missing out on something greater. This isn't about giving up, it's about choosing freedom. It's about choosing the life you want to create over the life you've outgrown. And that choice, while difficult, is one of the most powerful choices you can make. By letting go, you're not abandoning your past, you're simply choosing to honor your future. You're saying, I trust that what's ahead of me is better than anything I'm leaving behind. And that's a declaration of faith in yourself, in your potential, and in the journey you're on. Letting go of what no longer serves us is also an act of self-love. It's recognizing that you are worth more than the things that keep you stagnant, that you deserve to live a life that reflects your highest self. When you let go, you're telling yourself that you deserve to grow, to evolve, to experience life fully. You're giving yourself permission to be more than the sum of your past experiences. You're saying, I am more than what I've been through. I am more than my mistakes, my struggles, my fears. And in that choice, you find freedom. The journey of growth is one of continual letting go. As we evolve, we must shed what no longer aligns with us, just as a snake sheds its skin, just as a butterfly leaves its cocoon. It's a process, one that may require us to let go over and over again. But each time we do, we're creating a life that is lighter, freer, and more aligned with who we truly are. By releasing what doesn't serve us, we step into the fullness of our potential. We make room for the person we are meant to become. Growth is a journey that asks more of us than just going through the motions. It requires us to step out in courage, to take bold strides into places we may have never walked before. It asks us to leave behind what feels comfortable, what feels safe, and to trust that there is something on the other side worth risking it all for. Growth is not a passive process. It demands our willingness to confront our own fears, our insecurities, and sometimes our deepest limitations. It requires courage because it often means leaving behind the life we know and embracing the unknown. And let me tell you, that can be one of the most intimidating choices to make. Yet, it's that choice, the one to venture into unfamiliar territory, that creates the space for us to evolve into the people we're meant to become. Courage is not about being fearless, it's about feeling the fear and stepping forward anyway. When we think about the times we've grown the most, it's often the times we had to face something hard, something challenging. Maybe it was leaving a job that felt stable but unfulfilling, or ending a relationship that didn't bring out the best in us, or even taking a leap of faith toward a dream that everyone else thought was impossible. Those moments didn't feel easy, did they? They probably filled us with uncertainty, with that churning feeling in our stomachs that told us we were walking into something we couldn't control. But it's in those very moments when we choose courage over comfort that true growth happens. Comfort zones are like cozy blankets. They give us a sense of security, a feeling of predictability, and there's a reason we're drawn to them. We love knowing what comes next, having control over our lives, feeling like we're in charge. But the truth is, nothing grows in a comfort zone. It may feel good in the short term, but in the long run, it's a trap that keeps us small. The longer we stay there, the more we begin to settle. We settle for less than we deserve. We settle for a version of ourselves that doesn't challenge us, that doesn't inspire us. And before we know it, that comfort becomes a cage, one that keeps us from reaching our true potential. Growth asks us to break free from that cage, to step into a new level of ourselves, even if it means walking into uncertainty. The reality is, growth is often messy. It's not this smooth, linear path. It's full of twists and turns, of starts and stops, of moments that test our resolve. And that's where courage comes in. Courage is the fuel that keeps us moving forward, even when the path gets rocky, even when we can't see what's ahead. When we choose to be courageous, we're telling ourselves that we believe in our own resilience. We're saying that we trust ourselves enough to handle whatever comes our way. It's a declaration of faith in our own strength, in our own power to create the life we desire. Because at the end of the day, no one else can live our lives for us. No one else can walk this journey. It's up to us to take those steps, to face our fears, and to embrace the challenges that growth brings. One of the greatest misconceptions about growth is that it's supposed to be easy, that it's supposed to feel good all the time. But let me tell you, growth is rarely comfortable. In fact, if you're feeling comfortable, you're probably not growing. Growth feels like discomfort because it's pushing us to expand beyond the limits we've set for ourselves. It's stretching us, challenging us, forcing us to confront the parts of ourselves we'd rather ignore. It's those moments of discomfort that bring about the greatest transformation. Because when we're uncomfortable, we're being asked to question our beliefs, our habits, our patterns. We're being asked to let go of what we think we know and to be open to something new. Growth also requires us to be willing to fail. So often we hold back because we're afraid of making mistakes, of getting it wrong. But failure is not the opposite of growth, it's a part of it. Every time we stumble, every time we fall, we learn something valuable. We learn about our strengths, our weaknesses, our resilience. We learn that we're capable of picking ourselves back up, of dusting ourselves off, and of trying again. Growth is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about making the choice to keep going, even when things don't go as planned. Because each time we do, we're building our own resilience, our own determination. And that, my friends, is where true strength comes from. There will always be people who question your journey, who doubt your path, who don't understand why you're choosing to step out of your comfort zone. They may even tell you that it's safer to stay where you are, to play it safe, to stick to what you know. But you have to remember that your life is yours to live. Your dreams are yours to pursue. Your growth is yours to define. And only you know what it takes to reach your highest potential. Don't let the voices of others drown out the voice within you that's calling you forward. Don't let the doubts and fears of others become your own. Courage is about trusting yourself, about honoring your own truth, even if it means standing alone. Growth is also about letting go of the need for approval, of the desire to fit into the boxes that others have created for us. So often we limit ourselves because we're afraid of what others will think. We're afraid of standing out, of being different, of stepping outside of the norms. But growth requires us to shed those limitations, to break free from the expectations of others, and to embrace our own path. It's about choosing to be authentically, unapologetically yourself, even if it means going against the grain. Because when you choose to honor your own journey, you're giving yourself permission to live fully, to experience life on your own terms. Courage and growth go hand in hand, because each step forward requires us to let go of something old, to release what no longer serves us. It's a constant process of shedding and renewing, of letting go and stepping forward. And each time we do, we become a little stronger, a little wiser, a little more aligned with our true selves. Growth is about becoming, about evolving, about reaching for the next level. And while that journey may be challenging, it's also incredibly rewarding, because with each step, we're becoming more of who we're meant to be. So as we walk this path, let us remember that courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision to move forward despite it. It's about choosing to trust in our own journey, to believe in our own potential, and to embrace the unknown with open arms. Growth requires us to be brave, to take risks, to challenge ourselves in ways we never thought possible. But in doing so, we discover parts of ourselves we never knew existed. We uncover strengths we didn't know we had. We experience moments of joy and fulfillment that only come from living fully, from embracing our true potential. True growth happens when we release old stories and create space for new ones. It's such a powerful truth, yet it's one that many of us struggle to accept. We walk around carrying these stories, these beliefs about who we are, what we can do, and what we deserve. They're stories we've repeated to ourselves so often that we start to believe them as the only truth, even when they no longer serve us. Sometimes these stories come from our families, from our past experiences, or from society. They're stories we inherited or stories we've built around past failures, disappointments, and fears, and because they feel familiar, we hold on to them thinking they define us. But what if I told you that those old stories are just that, old stories? What if I told you that you have the power to rewrite them, to create a new narrative that reflects who you truly are and who you're becoming? Imagine if every belief you held about yourself was written in a book, and you carried that book with you everywhere you went. Each chapter would represent a part of your identity filled with memories, experiences, and beliefs. But as the years go by, some of those chapters start to feel outdated. They no longer resonate with the person you are now, yet you keep reading them, reinforcing those same limiting beliefs and allowing them to shape your life. When we cling to these old stories, we're not giving ourselves the opportunity to evolve. We're letting outdated chapters hold us back, convincing ourselves that this is all we are, all we'll ever be. Growth requires us to set that book down, to look at it honestly and ask ourselves which parts are still true and which parts we need to let go of to make room for something new. Letting go of old stories is not about denying your past. It's about acknowledging that while those stories may have been a part of your journey, they don't have to define your destination. The person you were 5, 10, or even 20 years ago doesn't have to be the person you are today. The experiences you went through back then don't have to dictate the choices you make now. Growth allows you to shed those old identities, to look at yourself with fresh eyes and to say, I am more than my past. I am more than my past. I am more than my mistakes, my fears, my limitations. By creating space for new stories, you're giving yourself permission to become the person you've always known you could be, the person you are meant to be. One of the hardest parts about releasing old stories is that they often come with a sense of safety. There's comfort in the familiar, even if it's holding us back. When we've told ourselves a story for long enough, it becomes a part of us, almost like a security blanket that we cling to when things get uncertain. Letting go of that story feels like stepping into the unknown, and that can be terrifying. But here's the thing, the unknown is where all the magic happens. The unknown is where growth lies, where new possibilities and opportunities await. By releasing those old narratives, you're opening yourself up to a world of potential that you may have never imagined. You're giving yourself the chance to write a new story, one that aligns with the person you are becoming, rather than the person you used to be. Think about the power of rewriting your story. Instead of saying, I'm not good enough, you say, I am worthy of all that I desire. Instead of saying, I've failed too many times to try again, you say, every setback is a lesson, and I am stronger because of it. Instead of saying, I don't have what it takes, you say, I have everything I need within me to succeed. Changing your story is not about pretending everything is perfect. It's about choosing to see yourself in a new light, to believe in your own potential. When you rewrite your story, you're reclaiming your power. You're saying, I get to define who I am. I get to choose what I believe about myself. Releasing old stories also requires us to let go of the fear of judgment. So often we hold on to outdated narratives because we're worried about what others will think. We worry that if we change, if we evolve, the people in our lives may not understand or accept the new version of us. But here's the truth, your journey is yours to walk. Your growth is yours to embrace. And those who are truly meant to be in your life will support you as you shed the old and step into the new. Don't let the opinions of others keep you trapped in a version of yourself that doesn't align with your soul. You owe it to yourself to be true to who you are, even if that means letting go of what others expect from you. Creating space for new stories is a gift you give to yourself. It's an act of self-love, a declaration that you are worthy of growth, of change, of transformation. When you let go of old stories, you're making room for a future that reflects your deepest desires, your highest potential. You're opening yourself up to experiences that align with your true self. Imagine the freedom that comes with releasing the weight of outdated beliefs, of letting go of the stories that no longer serve you. It's like taking a deep breath after being underwater for too long. You feel lighter, freer, more alive. Growth asks us to be honest with ourselves, to look at our lives and ask, what am I holding on to that no longer serves me? It could be a belief, a habit, a relationship, or a way of thinking that once had a purpose but is now limiting you. By asking these questions, by daring to be real with ourselves, we're opening the door to growth. We're giving ourselves permission to evolve, to become more of who we're meant to be. And that process, while challenging, is also incredibly empowering. Because with each old story we release, we're stepping closer to our true selves. This journey of growth is one of constant renewal. As we shed old stories, we're creating space for new ones, stories that reflect our dreams, our strengths, our vision for the future. And with each new story we write, we're building a life that feels more authentic, more aligned with our soul's purpose. Growth is not about reaching a destination, it's about continuously becoming, about embracing the journey of self-discovery. It's about recognizing that we are always evolving, always learning, always growing. By releasing the past, we're giving ourselves the gift of possibility, of hope, of a future that is as boundless as our imagination. So let us remember that we are the authors of our own lives. We hold the pen and we get to decide what stories we tell ourselves. We get to choose which beliefs we hold on to and which ones we let go of. We have the power to create a new narrative, one that reflects our truest selves, our deepest desires, our highest potential. And in that choice, we find freedom, we find strength, we find the courage to grow. Forgiving yourself is one of the most profound acts of healing you can give yourself. So often we carry around guilt, shame, and regret for things that happened in the past moments when we fell short, times when we made mistakes, choices we wish we could take back. We replay these memories in our minds over and over, judging ourselves, criticizing ourselves, and holding on to a version of ourselves that we've outgrown. And in doing so, we trap ourselves in a cycle of self-blame, a cycle that prevents us from fully moving forward. But forgiveness, real forgiveness, is about letting go of those past versions of ourselves. It's about embracing the truth that we are not defined by our mistakes, that we are worthy of compassion, and that we have the right to leave behind what no longer serves us. Self-forgiveness is not about excusing our actions or ignoring the consequences of our choices. It's about acknowledging what happened, taking responsibility for it, and then allowing ourselves to release the burden. It's about recognizing that, like every human being, we are imperfect, we make mistakes, and sometimes we learn the hard way. But holding on to guilt and shame doesn't make us better, it only keeps us stuck. Forgiving yourself is a declaration that you deserve to be free from the chains of the past, that you deserve to live in the present with an open heart and an open mind. It's about choosing to see yourself with compassion, to honor your journey, and to trust that you are capable of growth and change. When we carry guilt and shame, we're not just holding on to the past, we're letting it dictate our present and our future. We allow our mistakes to define us, to shape the way we see ourselves and the choices we make moving forward. But the truth is, we are not the same person we were back then. Every experience, every challenge, every difficult moment has taught us something, has helped us evolve. By forgiving ourselves, we're acknowledging that growth. We're saying, yes, I made mistakes, but I am not my mistakes. I am more than my past. We're giving ourselves permission to embrace who we are now, not who we used to be. And in doing so, we're freeing ourselves to create a future that aligns with our true potential. Self-forgiveness also means letting go of the unrealistic expectations we often place on ourselves. So many of us walk through life with this belief that we have to be perfect, that we can't make any missteps, that we have to always have it all together. But perfection is an illusion, a standard that no one can ever truly meet. When we hold ourselves to these impossible expectations, we set ourselves up for disappointment and self-blame. We start to feel like we're never good enough, like we're constantly falling short. Forgiving yourself means releasing those expectations, accepting your imperfections, and understanding that you are human. It's about recognizing that growth is messy, that healing is not a straight line, and that you are worthy of love and acceptance just as you are. One of the most powerful aspects of self-forgiveness is that it allows us to reconnect with our inner peace. When we hold on to guilt and shame, we're constantly at war with ourselves. We judge ourselves, criticize ourselves, and punish ourselves for things we cannot change. But when we forgive, we're choosing peace over self-judgment. We're choosing to create harmony within ourselves, to let go of the inner conflict that weighs us down. We're choosing to believe that we are deserving of joy, of love, of fulfillment. Self-forgiveness is an act of liberation. It's a way of saying, I release myself from the pain of the past, and I choose to embrace the peace of the present. It's about finding the courage to lay down the burden and to step forward with a heart that is open and a spirit that is free. Forgiving yourself also opens the door to self-compassion. So often we are our own harshest critics. We say things to ourselves that we would never say to someone we love. Words that wound, words that wound, words that diminish our sense of self-worth. But self-forgiveness invites us to speak to ourselves with kindness, to treat ourselves with the same compassion we would offer a friend. It's about learning to be gentle with ourselves, to nurture ourselves, and to understand that we are worthy of care. When we practice self-compassion, we create a safe space within ourselves, a space where we can heal, grow, and thrive. Self-compassion is the foundation of self-forgiveness, the realization that we are deserving of kindness, even when we feel we've fallen short. One of the biggest barriers to self-forgiveness is the fear that if we forgive ourselves, we're somehow letting ourselves off the hook, that we're not holding ourselves accountable. But accountability and forgiveness are not mutually exclusive. In fact, true accountability comes from a place of love, from a desire to learn and grow, not from a place of shame. When we hold ourselves accountable with compassion, we're not punishing ourselves, we're guiding ourselves toward better choices, toward a path that aligns with our values. Forgiveness allows us to take responsibility without carrying the weight of guilt and shame. It allows us to learn from our mistakes, to make amends if needed, and to move forward with a sense of empowerment rather than self-judgment. Self-forgiveness is a journey, a process that takes time and patience. It's not something that happens overnight. It requires us to look within, to face our past with honesty and courage, and to make the conscious choice to release what no longer serves us. It's about being willing to confront the parts of ourselves that we may not like, the parts that feel messy, uncomfortable, or flawed. But in that confrontation, we find healing. In that willingness to face ourselves, we find strength. Forgiving yourself is not about erasing the past, it's about integrating it, learning from it, and using it as a stepping stone toward a more fulfilling life. When we forgive ourselves, we're also giving ourselves permission to be vulnerable. We're allowing ourselves to let down the walls we've built to protect ourselves from pain, from disappointment, from self-judgment. Vulnerability is not a weakness, it's a strength. It's the willingness to show up as we are, to be seen and to be open to growth. When we choose self-forgiveness, we're choosing to be vulnerable with ourselves, to accept our humanity, and to embrace our journey. Vulnerability is what allows us to truly connect with ourselves, to understand ourselves on a deeper level, and to build a life that is authentic and meaningful. Forgiving yourself is one of the most empowering choices you can make. It's a choice to reclaim your power, to take ownership of your life, and to believe in your own worthiness. When we forgive ourselves, we're no longer allowing our past to dictate our present. We're no longer giving our mistakes the power to define who we are. We're choosing to step into our own strength, to recognize our resilience, and to honor our journey. Self-forgiveness is a way of saying, I am worthy of love, I am worthy of healing, and I am worthy of a life filled with peace and joy. It's a declaration of self-love, a commitment to nurturing ourselves, and a promise to honor our own growth. In the end, self-forgiveness is a journey of coming home to yourself, of finding peace within, and of embracing your true self. It's about letting go of the weight of the past, about choosing compassion over judgment, and about believing in your own capacity to heal and to grow. Forgiving yourself is an act of courage, a choice to love yourself unconditionally, and a commitment to creating a life that reflects your highest potential. It's about recognizing that you are worthy of every good thing, that you are deserving of happiness, and that you have the power to create a future filled with hope, joy, and possibility.